I always love going into a pizzeria for the first time and asking the waiter or waitress, how much more pizza am I getting with the 16-inch pizza over the 8-inch, or maybe the 12-inch over the 24-inch? Because the answer that I get probably 99.9% of the time is that the difference between an 8-inch pizza and a 16-inch pizza is double. When in fact, and I'll just tell you this ahead of time, the answer is that they'll say that I will be getting twice as much pizza. And it's really, the real answer to it is 4 times more pizza. So just the way it is, I mean, just so you guys know, you go from one size and you double that size. When you double the size, you're actually quadrupling the area, believe it or not. Okay, so I'm going to show that to you using a very simple formula involving pi, pi. Remember that 3.141615, whatever, that goes on for trillions of digits? That's what we're going to be using here, all right? So here's how it works. If you have an 8-inch pizza, let's say, we need to, first of all, to determine all that we're about to find out here, we need to figure out what the radius is of 8-inch. Well, the radius is always going to be half of the diameter, okay? Now, if we want to do that using a formula, all we do is we'll go to this cell here, D3, we'll say equal, take the diameter, all right, divided by 2, all right? Enter that in. We can go ahead and copy that all the way down. We can hit a little smart tag there and tell it not to format, and that way we get our borders back there. All right, so there's our radius. Now for the actual calculation that will determine how many inches, how many square inches we have here. So whether you're measuring inches, feet, yards, miles, meters, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It all works the same way, for the formula. So anyway, what we'll do is we'll type in equal, type in the letter P. You'll see pi down below here. We'll double click onto that. And because nothing goes in pi, just like with the other features that we run into earlier, with dates and so forth, nothing goes in there, right? So then we say times, all right? And then we take the radius, okay, which is this guy here. So we click on the radius, and then we put the little hat character in. That means power. That's the one that's above number 6 on your keyboard on the top there. And then we're going to type in the number 2, all right? So the area is equal to pi times the radius squared, right? Enter that in, we get 50 inches, all right? Now, we're going to go ahead and copy that now all the way down for all of our other inch and radiuses that we have here. Copy that all the way down. Get rid of that formatting. And there we go. So as you can see, 8-inch pizza, 16-inch pizza. Look at that. Quadruple the size. If I went from, let's say, 12-inch to 24, quadruple. All right. If I went from 8 to 24, my God, look at that. So that's why when you go to these pizzerias, or even a pie place, and you'll see a pie that's twice as big, and it's like, or a pizza, and it's like, my God, they're asking 3 times more than for the one that's half the size. I'm getting ripped off. No, you're actually getting a good deal in comparison. So this is actually very good stuff to know, I think. Now, I got one more for you. Here we have a landscaping company. Now, they need to also figure out square feet so they can determine how much they're going to charge to do different jobs, different people, different yards and things like that. Now, I'll say that, a lot of people, with their homes have pretty much a rectangular piece of property, and that's easy to figure out in that regard, right? But if their property is a little bit off kilter, almost like if you're looking at a lake, lakes, you rarely find lakes, at least natural ones, where they're like perfect circles. I mean, they're circular, all right? I mean, they have a kind of a roundness to them, but they're still all over the place. And for you to be able to figure out the diameter of something like that is almost impossible by the way we just did it, because you can measure across the lake or across the yard at different spots, and you're going to get different diameters, right? So how do we get around? Well, we have another little tool called circumference. Circumference is circle, kind of. And what circumference is, if you're looking at a yard or a lake, let's say we look at a lake, you would start at one spot on shore, and you would measure all the way around the lake as you're going around the shore. All right, so you might measure it in feet, might measure it in yards, maybe you'll measure it in miles, who knows? But whatever it is, you'll measure that circumference. So let's say you're going around, somebody's yard, and you measure it out, and it ends up being 350 or 450, whatever. How are we going to then determine the amount of square feet in that case, right? Okay, so here's how you do it. Well, first of all, we have to figure out the diameter, okay? So we're going to go over here to the diameter spot here. And how are we going to do that? Well, to figure diameter, that involves using the pi. Once again, the pi function, or pi just in general, right? The way we do that is we type in equal, and we say, okay, let's take the circumference, okay? And we're going to divide it by pi. So divided by p, letter P there's pi, and we close it up. That's it. That's how you find the diameter, by taking the circumference divided by pi. You enter that in, there you go. And we go ahead and we'll copy that down to the bottom, all right? So there they are. So that's pretty wild. I bet a lot of you are watching these videos are sitting there saying, my God, I didn't know it was that easy. Now, next thing we want to figure out now the radius, because that's going to be the next step from what? From determining the actual square feet in this case, all right? So to find the radius, we know that to be half the diameter, right? So we're going to type in equal. We'll click on the diameter divided by 2, right? Enter that in, and there it goes. Copy that down. Now that we've got the radius, well, now we can figure out the actual square feet. How are we going to do that? We're going to type in what? Equal. Do you guys remember? Equal what? It's going to be equal pi. So we hit the letter P. There's pi. We'll close that up. That's going to be pi what? Pi times, right? The radius, all right? Which I can't really get to here. I don't think so, no. So I'll just type in what? E13, right? And then that's going to be what? E13, put a little hat guy in there, and the number 2 to make it squared. So it's pi times the radius squared. Enter that in. There we go. Amazing. Copy that all the way down. There we go. So then, especially in this situation, if this person knows that it costs this much per square foot to mow and trim based on, I don't know, depreciation of his lawnmower and, gasoline and all that stuff, right? So it's 0.002. So his cost to mow this lawn would be, $19, and he can figure out his markup. And same thing with everything else that we have here. So it's a very, very smart way of doing business, doing something like this. All right, so hopefully this helps you in some form. Maybe you'll use this in some of your worksheets, but I think if anything, more personally than anything, using this. So hopefully that was some use of some use to you, right? And I appreciate you watching my video.